Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder, saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. Like saying that will actually stop people from being mad on the internet. Come on. I'm not going to lie. When I first heard about the Ted prequel series, I immediately thought that it would be terrible. I have not been a big fan of Modern Family Guy, and many of MacFarlane's movies have not worked for me at all. Although I have heard that The Orville is good, so I think the key is that Seth MacFarlane has to care the entire way through a project for it to be good. So I assumed that this show would be a cash grab, something he would put minimal effort into, something that I could laugh at, something that I could just grab a beer and mock with my wife. But that was sadly not the case. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that Ted is not only good, it is really good. Shockingly so. Not 10 out of 10 fantastic or anything, but it is a fun, solid ride. I'm not going to say that I want to go back and watch the entire first season again, but I would be excited for a second season. I would actively look forward to the release date. That makes Ted a solid experience, but not phenomenal. But it's also not anywhere close to being as terrible as I thought it would be, which is why I'm also slightly disappointed. I thought I would be roasting and joking about the show with my wife for weeks, but it's an enjoyable experience that I can't really criticize all that much, meaning in all actuality, I got less enjoyment from the show than I thought I would, and that's why I'm slightly disappointed.
Disappointed!
If you don't know, Ted follows a living teddy bear named Ted. He came to life after a wish from his human John. For a brief period, Ted became a celebrity, but the novelty of a living teddy bear eventually wore off, so he's stuck living a normal life with his family. He and John are best friends, living with their religious mother Susan and the father Matty, who is basically Bill Burr in the 90s. Plus, there's the cousin Blair, who is the voice of reason, sometimes. Other times, she's the nagging moral busybody that MacFarlane loves to mock. I will admit that I went into this completely blind. I have never watched either of the Ted movies. Of course, that's something that's going to change after watching this prequel series. But this does mean that I didn't have any preconceptions about what this would be. In a lot of ways, Family Guy was about random cutaway gags and odd situations. A Million Ways to Die in the West is a parody of the cowboy tropes. Ted's comedy, however, is 90% built on situational and banter humor, which is my favorite type of comedy in shows and movies, where characters just play off of each other. The rest of the jokes are about the fact that Ted is a living toy, but I found those funny too. Just telling you what my sense of humor is when I say that I was laughing a lot in this show, even if others might think that it's very, very stupid.
Stupid is, stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
I guess.
It helps that Seth MacFarlane does a great job as Ted. He's really giving it his all, even if his voice kind of reminds me too much of Peter Griffin nowadays. But still, you can tell he actually cared about the show, and so did the rest of the cast. You can tell that John's actor was having a grand old time bouncing off of Seth MacFarlane. Matty's stereotypical depiction of a Boston man was fantastic. Susan's religious wife and mother persona was hilarious, and Blair was at her best just reacting to how insane everyone else was. You can tell that Seth coached them a lot in what he envisioned these characters to be. I read that he was on set a lot, which is super nice because he did not have to do that. He didn't have to try at all. He could have gotten his money, put in the smallest amount of effort possible, and walked away with his cash with no one saying anything to him. It's a prequel for Ted. Everyone expected it to suck, but Seth cared. In fact, he's a guy who's given a lot back to the arts. I know that money is a factor, but I always felt that he keeps Family Guy and American Dad going just because he doesn't want to put a bunch of people out of work. And I could be dead wrong, but this is why I'm not as offended by Modern Family Guy, even if I think it kind of sucks now.
This is the result of a broken society in which profit comes before morals.
Boo! Boo when you taste a burger, boo!
There are criticisms that could be had for Ted. 1. If you don't like the humor, you will not like this show. There is no getting around that. 2. There are scenes very similar to early Family Guy, along with the music. Is this a reference or a lazy copy? That is for you to decide. 3. Some of the episodes might seem a bit long. All of this is entirely in the eye of the beholder. I will say that I didn't feel the length of the episodes, but I also paused them a lot, and it felt like each episode was as long as McFarlane wanted them to be instead of meeting some corporate mandate, so that's something to think about. One thing that got me was that many different episodes had moments that just had me surprisingly uncomfortable, like I was actually there and these situations were real, and not even the comedy spots, stuff like using the bully's parental issues against him, and Marty ignoring Susan's feelings during a dinner. It all made me feel surprisingly sad, and I get that's what Seth was going for. I had the correct feelings for the scenes, but something about these situations just made me want to stop for a bit. Now, this might be a me problem. You might very well get through it laughing and not caring, but there were a few times where I just sat and thought, damn, I feel bad. Maybe I'm just too empathetic to situations that reminds me of things I've witnessed in real life. Or it could just be the whiplash from laughing so hard to being sad, I don't know.
I am a man.
There's a lot that can be said about Ted, both positively and negatively, which is still shocking to me that something which seemed doomed to fail was actually pretty good. It reminded me of the Animaniacs reboot, where they were completely aware that this was a cash grab. They mocked that aspect of the show and made the best of it. And maybe that's what I want when corpos demand these nostalgia cash grabs. I just want the actual artistic people involved to care, to try to make the best of a situation. If you want to know exactly what I mean, just look at the CGI for Ted himself. Why does he look better than 90% of all other shows, especially the Disney stuff? How can the show about a stuffed animal on Peacock, of all things, have better effects than one of the richest companies in existence? Because Seth MacFarlane cared enough about his ideas, the people involved, and his audience to put in the real effort to make sure it's all good. And guess what? No AI involved at all. Isn't that something to praise?
I love the flavor.
That's spot on.
I love that.
Is Ted for everyone? Oh, hell no. Is this the best comedy show ever made? Oh, no, not at all. Do I think that it's still really good? Yes, I do. I like it a lot more than I probably should. And maybe that's also where the disappointment comes in. This show and Reacher lapped most other things that I've been watching recently, despite having every single excuse in the world to be bad. But everyone just tried. So maybe my disappointment isn't in Ted itself, but the situations around Ted. That other things get a pass for being so bad when something that has no right being this good and this high quality just laps its competition with absolute ease. It makes me disappointed in everyone else. Please, for the love of God, corpos, put people in charge of projects that care about what they're doing and do not get in their way. I promise you that they know better than you when it comes to art, and it will work out better for almost everyone involved, because if a prequel comedy show could be this good, imagine what other non-cash grab stories can achieve. And to end off, to prove how good I think Ted is, I would like to point out one of my favorite jokes in the entire show. During his first day at school, Ted asked a group of kids to raise their hands if they're gay, and a lot of them did, and then Ted asked them how it was. One guy yells, "It's the," and Ted just says, "There you go." I don't know what it is about that joke, but it has been living rent-free in my head for so long, and I love it so much. It might be that one joke that was so good that it made me want to make this whole video. You're welcome to disagree with all this. That's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion. Hey, do you like stories about an interconnected world? Then consider giving my LPCO books a try. They are all connected in some way, but you can jump in at any point, unless it's a series. Then you have to start at the beginning. But I got 3 books out right now and 3 coming next year. You will not have to wait long for content. Either way, thank you. I appreciate you. Do not despair.